In this tutorial, we're going to do some searches from the Greek text. And so this is where we left off in the last video. We're just going to hit close all. So that closes everything on the screen. And we're going to open our Greek New Testament. So if you have your program scaling to 150% as I do, the more shortcuts are found in this menu. So you find it there. Now, if you're not in that, you're in this menu, you'll find your shortcut right there. So we'll leave the program scaling at 150%. So here is the Greek New Testament open. We're just going to change our change our text to Matthew 13:52. And so this is a text you've spent all sorts of time looking at. Ho de epen autois diatuto pas grammetus mathetutheis te basileia ton uranon homoios esten anthropo oikodespote hostis ek bale ek tu thesaru autu kaina kai pailaia. So this is the Greek text. So we can do all of the searches we just did in the ESV in the previous tutorial from the Greek text itself. Now, because you are not trained to read the Greek text fluently, you probably want to have an English translation open beside this. Not necessarily, but perhaps you do. So you can simply click your preferred Bible over here on this icon on the left-hand side of the page and open that. You can link these two together by hitting the kebab, link set A, and link set A. So now as you scroll up and down here, they're going to scroll together. And if we just change the font size of this back down to normal, we'll have both of these texts scrolling together. So if you want to go to 1352 and both of them, they're just going to go there. So, oops, 1352. Now if we do a right-click search on the word grammatus, here's our word, grammatus. So I just right-clicked it. Same menu pops up as in a right-click English search. On the left-hand side of the menu, what's highlighted is the lemma, and it tells us it's the lemma on the right-hand side of the pane. Remember, if we click here, it's going to search for that particular selection, which shows up in the manuscript. Here is the reference. If we click on this one, it's going to search for lemma. So if we now have grammatus selected on the left-hand side of the right-click menu, showing us the lemma, and we left-click on grammatus here, it generates a search in the Greek New Testament for the word grammatus and finds 63 results. So that's one way you can do the right-click search. That is, you can right-click, select the Greek lemma, and click on the Greek word. That actually performs a morphological search. You can also get the same search results by clicking on Bible. It just changes the tab here in this search pane. So this one has Bible, and you'll note there are a few other things on the menu, and will permit us to do a few more options. That is, we could change this, for example, to all Bibles and search grammatus, whereas if it's a morphological search, you don't have those same options. So all that to say, there are two ways, I'll just close these search results, two ways that you can do the right-click search and get the same lemma result. So right-click, navigate the left-hand side of the menu, select grammatus, make sure it says lemma up here, go down to the search part of the pane on the right-hand side, left-click it, and there is a search for grammatus. Now you could go ahead and say, well, I'd like to see those search results in more than one translation. Well, that's where we would use this button here, the multiple books display. So if I simply click on that now, it's put the ESV up beside it. Now, yours may have done nothing when you clicked on it. It depends what you have selected in this little drop-down menu here. So if I click the drop-down menu, I see I have the ESV selected. Well, I could select off of that. And so if I click away from that now, whoops. What did I do? Shut the whole thing down. Layouts. We'll go back here. If I click it now, nothing happens. Why? Because nothing is selected in the menu. So you simply go down here. You may not have anything in recent, but if you scroll down here where you can put check marks in, select the translation you choose. It shows up at the top. Just then click off the menu, and there's your results in multiple translations. You can also restrict the search. So right now the search is in all passages. I can simply click on that and say I just want Matthew. So I just type Matthew in there. At this point I simply hit enter. There we'll see that the word grammatus occurs 22 times in the SBL in the Gospel of Matthew. And so you could scroll through your results that way, or you could navigate them with the search results on this menu in the Greek text. Actually, that menu is the locator bar menu. You can turn it off, no longer there, or you can turn it on. And so once you have your hit, then you can scroll up or down as long as this says search results, which will only populate if you're running a present search in that particular Bible or in that particular Bible. So and it needs to be set to search results, and then you can hit the down arrows and it will simply take you and scroll you through the search results rather than navigating them in the search pane. So let's go back to Matthew 13:52. There we are. You can also graph these results in a chart. So if I simply left click in the charts tool, and before we do that, let's return this. I'll just backspace all passages, and now we're going to use the charts tool, and it's going to tell us how many hits are in each book of the New Testament, because don't forget it's only the New Testament that is written in Greek, so the SBLGNT only applies to the New Testament. And so we got 20 hits, 22 hits in Matthew, and 21 in Mark, and 14 in Luke. And so you can graph your results this way as well. Incidentally, if we had chosen to graph our results when it was restricted to Matthew, we'll go back and do that, and then graph those results. The default is number of results in a book. And because we're looking only at one book, it's just going to show you the 22 results in the one book. So then you could change that to number of results in a chapter, for example. Scroll this over and realize that Matthew 23 is where you'll get most of the hits for grammatus in the Gospel of Matthew. So I'll close those search results. And so you can just continue to do this with whatever word we have in our text. So our next word in our text, diatuto pas grammatus mathetutheis. Mathetutheis. What's this word? Well, if we've been remembering what we learned in our Greek as a spiritual discipline, we'll recognize this word. The lemma form is mathetuo. So if I right click on it, see, there it is, mathetuo. I was looking at this word and thought I got it wrong. Mathetuo. So this is the lemma form of the word. So here's the manuscript form here. So they call it selection. And when you're doing this in a Greek text, if you did this in the ESV, it would have manuscript over here. But this is simply the selection. That is the word in the text. If we change it to the lemma, this little icon here, you know you've got it clicked when it says lemma on the right side of the menu, and then left click on mathetuo, and that generates a result. 4 results in 4 verses in all passages in the New Testament, in the Greek New Testament. And we can toggle off the multiple books view and just see it in the Greek text, or we can graph it with the charts view as well. Once again, I want to show how when you do multiple right-click searches, like I demonstrated quite exhaustively in the previous tutorial, it doesn't keep hanging on to your search restrictions. So here's a search result, grammatus. We have it restricted to Matthew. So let's just shrink this down so you can see this a little better. We have the Greek New Testament, all morphological text, returning queries by verse in the Gospel of Matthew. So we've restricted it to Matthew. So that's grammatus. If we search Matthew 2 Thais now, right-click search Matthew 2o, we're on lemma, left-click. Now it returns results in all passages. So let's just make this bigger again. Now it returns results in all passages. So we restricted it to Matthew. Why won't the program just keep restricting it? Sorry, I clicked somewhere else. Why won't the program keep restricting it? Well, it supposes that you're just wanting to do a search result from scratch every time. But there is a workaround. I covered this in the English tutorial. You might want to review that, but I'll go over it again briefly here. If we get rid of the second search for Matthew 2o, and if we take this restricted search and we click this kebab icon on the right-hand corner, and we say send searches here, what happens then is when we do a search for Matthew 2 Thais now, another lemma search, what happens? It's restricted to Matthew, because after we had restricted the search, we set it to target this search pane only, send the searches here, and so from here on in, it's going to return all of our searches in only Matthew's Gospel as we have restricted it. So if you want to have multiple search windows open and keep returning to the same restriction that you laid out, that is in this case to always search only the Gospel of Matthew, there's a little workaround, and here's what it is. You first of all get the program to return searches to the single search pane all the time. And so we'll just do grammatus again. And here it is. Didn't open another search pane. It's in Matthew, restricted. Let's assume we're doing work in Matthew 13:52 and we want multiple searches restricted within Matthew. If we come across a search like this and say, yes, that's a good search, I want it, right-click on the tab and hit duplicate. So now you have a duplicate search. It's exactly the same search, only this one is not targeted anymore, but it's restricted to Matthew. Then if we do a Matthew 2 Thais, right-click search, lemma search, it stays in Matthew. So now we have two searches simultaneous, one in this search pane that has not prioritized, like it's not sending all searches here, and the other hit in this window, in this pane. And if we say, well, we want that one too, right-click, duplicate, and so we have three searches, one for grammatus, one for Matthew 2o, and then the duplicate for Matthew 2o. So we could search some more and say we want to search on oikodespote. Right-click search on oikodespote. There's the lemma form. Make sure it's lemma. Left-click there. It's search for oikodespote. So we have three searches generated now, all restricted to the Gospel of Matthew, all at the same time. And so that's one of the workarounds to display all these searches at once. And I'll show you one other interesting feature. If you wanted all these searches displayed at the same time, but to be displayed in different colors, here's how you do that. So if we had grammatus, I'm just going to go Control copy. So that's Control C on a PC. However you do that on a Mac, you could do it the same way. Then I'm going to open this search result. I'm going to put the cursor there at the end. I'm going to type in all caps O-R, just O-R, space, and paste it. So now it's searching for both of those words and returning the hits in a single verse in the Gospel of Matthew. So they're both being searched. So which one? We got Oko Despotes and Grammatus. So now we find our Grammatus search, we close that one. And notice one turned up a different color. So we got two the same color and one different. And now if we look for Mathe 2.0, the Mathe 2.0 search, and we go Control C again, which copies it. And we go back to this search pane, we navigate our cursor. So I just stuck it anywhere. Now I'm using the arrow key, then space O-R, and then paste, Control V. And now I hit enter again. It's searching for all three of those Greek words. And if we close this search, we have three search results in the Gospel of Matthew occurring simultaneously in one pane. And when you do that, it will highlight them in three different colors. So there are times when I find that to be helpful as well. So now how we have all these results, these search hits being highlighted in our Greek New Testament. And as we are beginner students of Greek, it would be handy, wouldn't it, if those same results could somehow be shown in the English translation? So we have Matthew 13:52 here in the ESV, Matthew 13:52 in the Greek New Testament. What would it take to have these search results highlighted in this text without doing the search in this text? The reason they're highlighted over here is because the search was done in the Greek New Testament. Well, there is a way to get your search results in both texts, English and Greek text, even if you're doing the search in only the Greek text. So let's restrict this search back down to Mathe 2 Thais. The lemma form is Mathe 2.0. So we'll simply do that search. We'll close this long, complicated search. We're simply searching for Mathe 2.0. Well, we know how it's translated in Matthew 13:52, but if we scroll around in Matthew, we come to this one in Matthew 28:19. And so there's the word that shows up again. We could navigate there through the search result menu here or through the search pane. And our text has scrolled with us in the ESV, but nothing is highlighted here. Wouldn't it be nice if the same word that stands behind if the English Standard Version's translation of Mathe 2.0 would be highlighted in this pane as well? Let me show you how to do that. If you see the three-dot icon, the visual filters in a little triangle, and you simply left click on it, and you see this box here called corresponding search results. You could select it here and it would affect the resource you're working in. But if you'd like this to work across all your resources, go to the right hand side and this little icon highlights a little bit, and click that little arrow there and say show in all appropriate books. Now it's going to show corresponding search results in all appropriate books. And so now if we go and we run our search again, I just put my cursor at the end and hit enter. Now it's highlighted make disciples of in the Matthew 28 verse 19, as the software is telling us this is the translation of this word Mathe 2.0. So that's how you can set your search results to transcend the one resource you're searching from. With this three-dot icon, the visual filters icon, if you just hover over it, that's what it'll say there, visual filters, and then select corresponding search results. You can check it for each resource, or you can use the drop-down menu at the right-hand side of the screen and say show in all appropriate books. So that's an interesting thing to do with your search results. So now if we opened another Bible, so if we go to Library, Bible, we pick the Christian Standard Bible, notice it is highlighted as well. Why? Because in our visual filters we selected corresponding search results and we selected show in all appropriate books. So it's going to show up in every English Bible that you have that is morphologically tagged or when you hover over the text, it's going to show the Greek words down below. And in this free software, we have a number of Bibles that are like that. The American Standard Version, the Christian Standard, the English Standard, the King James. All of our English Bibles are reverse interlinear Bibles here. So they've given you a number of English Bibles that are tagged with Greek text to do these kinds of searches, and it's quite a powerful resource that they've given us. So we'll go back to our Greek text, and so let's just imagine that we're working in the Greek text and we're looking at this word basileia right here. So I've clicked on it, I've highlighted it, and I would like, when I click on it like this, nothing happens, but I'd like that word to show up over here. So let's just close the search down altogether. And we're working in Matthew 13:52, dia tuto pas grammatus. So if we click on grammatus, we would like on this side of the screen for the word that's translated grammatus to be highlighted for us. There's a way you can do that. So if we once again, visual filters, corresponding selection, show in all appropriate books. So if I select grammatus, it shows up over there. Actually, an option I prefer, I think this is true, and we'll just try it here live. Let's just do not show in any books on that one. Let's do corresponding words and leave it selected to click. So we want it to select corresponding words. For every text we have open, on a click, show in all appropriate books. So here we are. Grammatus. I clicked it. It shows up as scribe over here. Mathetuses. What's going to show up when I click on this one? Who has been trained? Basileia. For kingdom. Te. The. Now that's a kind of an odd result because of the different ways an article can function, but you see what's happening there. Homoios. Homoios. Like. So we have a corresponding search results across all translations, and you see the Christian Standard Bible, we'll drag it over there, is doing the same thing. One more thing I want to show you before we finish up with searching in the Greek text. It's found in the info pane. So if you just simply type in the command bar show info and hit enter, this little information pane shows up on the right hand side. And what happens in that information pane is when you're mousing over a text, it's generating a bunch of information. It's kind of information overload. And so it doesn't matter if you're in an English text or in a Greek text, if I just keep moving my cursor around, it keeps populating this information pane. Well, I want to limit what it does a little bit, just down to one particular format. So if you click the add button here, pardon me, click this button, just a minute here. What am I looking for? Well, first of all, let's minimize these. So one of the things that happens in Logos Bible software, it has, when you do a search result, in some parts of the program, it opens them up for you. So you can close these all down, turn the arrows to the right, see all the different things it's going to search for here. And you can say, I don't want you working in the background. You're hogging all my resources. You can shut them off so they're not doing live searches. You can also select it so that it's not on a hover, like you do as you move your mouse over, but just on a click, so it's not populating it all the time. So I'd prefer click. So just change with the kebab menu to click instead of hover. And if you decide, well, I don't want all of these on there, So for example, I don't want literary typing to show up. I'm just going to hit remove. You can add it back with the add menu to put literary typing in if you want. And so I don't want preaching themes, I don't want fact book tags or highlights, or I don't want word information or definition or other references or footnotes. All I want is translation. In other words, if I open it up now and I want to know what different translations do with this word grammatus, and if I click on it, it says it's translated scribe in the ESV, the KJV, the LEB, and the ASB, and it's translated as teacher of the law in the CSB. And if I click CSB now, it's going to open that up. I wanted to show you this because this is an easy way to see what different English translations are doing with the text. Now you can also go right to Logos's text comparison. That shows up here. If you select text comparison, it's going to open up this other window, which works better on a larger screen. So let's just right click, open in a floating window, and because I have two monitors, it showed up over there. And you'll notice that when you make it large, it puts the different translations side by side, so it's doing a text comparison for you. And so you can, if you made this smaller, it'll put them one on top of the other. If you make it larger, it'll put them side by side. So you could carefully look here and see what different translations do with this. And so you could select this A here option, which shows differences. So it'll start with a base text and it'll say this is what this one does different in blue. Or you can just say, well, I don't want to see that, I don't want to show the differences, I just want to look at them myself. So that's how you get to this text comparison. So you can take and right click this and dock this tab, which will put it here back in your main window, or you could have just closed it. So you might find this information tool handy from time to time. And so that was right click searching in a Greek text, and I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover in that. So next tutorial we'll talk a little bit about moving text from Logos Bible software into a Word document. So we're going to close this session with closing all of these panes.